Welcome back, one and all, ladies and gentlemen. We're back once again here for another look at our Swansea City adventures. This, I believe, is the 2019 to 20 season, which sounds a bit wrong when you say it, but it did occur. So, as you can see, it's been a long journey to get to this point, but we've had a fair amount of success. It's season 8 of 12. We're nearly up to date. We're getting there. We're getting close. And as we've seen so far, there's been some fantastic times. We are still yet to win the FA Cup, which has been a slight blight on our progress so far. But we've done really well in other competitions. So, without any further ado, we're going to jump straight in and take a look at our fixtures for this quite important season. So on to the friendlies. You can see we started with big wins against a couple of American teams. We got New England, the Revolution, 4-0 winners out there. We then went and met Chivas USA, 6-0 winners there. Really happy at that point. Real Madrid, they did play mostly youngsters. I played a few reserves, but it was a strong side I put out, so 5-0 there. Over to Zagreb, and we did quite well out there, conceding our only goal of pre-season, which was unfortunate, but a big 5-1 win nonetheless. They are a really tough Croatian team, and we had to work hard for that. And then we ended up with a 4-0 home victory over Barcelona, so two big boys came to visit us. We went to America for 2 trips, out to Croatia, and a really nice warm-up period where we got the results that we were looking for. So really pleased with that. The next thing to be decided was the Community Shield. As you can see, big win here. Couple of important points to note. Man United are one of our biggest rivals. They are the team which gives us the most problems on a consistent basis. They're the big player domestically. They're the one we keep fighting with in quite a lot of competitions. So, it's really pleasing to keep a clean sheet and to get a 3-0 win of them. Early on in the season, I thought that gave us a lot of momentum. So, really pleased to be winning that. After the Community Shield, we move on to the Super Cup. And once again, we played, I think, 2 Premier League games in between the Community Shield and this. We met Man United again. Only a 1-0 win, but it's another clean sheet. And we're striving to make sure that that gap between us and United is always widening. So we've caught them, we surpassed them. Now it's time to put that distance and stop them being a threat. So really good performance there. A couple of early trophies in the season. Really enjoyed that. Then we move on to the Club World Cup. That was the next thing to be decided. As you can see, Club America down in Mexico, they met up against the Brazilian side Corinthians. Always back the Brazilian sides in this competition until the final. In real life, back them in the final as well. They tend to do rather well. But we met Lequia, which I believe is a Qatari side. Are they from Qatar? Let's have a quick look. Yeah, I think they're a Qatari club. 5-0 winners there. We usually have an easy semi-final. So, this was no different. And a 1-0 win over Corinthians is a good result. It wasn't a masterpiece. It wasn't a dominant performance. It wasn't anything special. But to win the Club World Cup's always a big occasion. Even if it comes at a really bad time in the season, being in December and in January. So you're looking to rebuild your squad, sort of manage your fitness levels, and then you've got another competition which just adds tough games right then and there, but also piles up your fixtures a little bit. A month or 2 down the line, you're still trying to play catch up. So it's never very easy, but the Brazilian club in the final, we got the job done. And it's another trophy in the bag, which is what we're trying to do at the club. So really pleased with that. Then we move on to the Capital One Cup. A win over Tranmere. That was fairly decent. It's an away performance and they can be really tricky ties for us. We don't play particularly well away from home. So it doesn't matter about the quality of the opposition. It's about getting the job done, and we did it that day. So really pleased there. Then we move on to the Watford game at home. Watford, I believe, were a Premiership club this season. They may not have been, but 6-0. A very good result nonetheless. Moved on to Stoke, another home draw, 3-1 win there. We were starting to flag a little bit. Like I say, the Capital One Cup is not really a priority for us, but it does follow on pretty much at this stage, in the new year. It follows on from the Club World Cup, and I think tiredness is starting to play a part here. I didn't have the squad this season that I wanted to. I think I was trying to make too many changes too soon. We'll see that in the transfers, with some of the moves I actually ended up making in the transfer window because of that. We didn't quite have enough at the club. We had far too many players out on loan. There wasn't enough cover. So that was a dodgy result. The 1-0 loss away to Wolves, it was an away game. We didn't have the squad, so I was upset to lose, but I could understand why. And I think at that point, after this game, I really put the work in to try and make sure that for the second half of the season, we were competing at the top of our level at all times. Luckily, it's a two-legged affair in the semi-final, so we brought them back to the Liberty, totally outclassed them and outplayed them, got the 3-0 win, and that was important to do. But it wasn't the most important game. That came a month later. Chelsea in the final, 4-1 winners, and again it's yet another trophy in the cabinet. And that meant we won the Community Shield, the Super Cup, the Club World Cup, and the Capital One Cup. So 4 trophies by the end of February is a fantastic achievement. We did it again. All that was left was to see, could we finally get our hands on the FA Cup, and then would we retain the Premiership and Champions League and continue our dominance. So first things first, let's have a quick look at the rest of the Capital One Cup. Our road, as you can see, that was a fairly easy road. There's some big clubs over our side with Newcastle, Everton, Wolves, Stoke. They're pretty big clubs. But I think over the other side, it was a little bit tougher. You got Tottenham, Chelsea, Blackburn, Man City, Liverpool, even QPR, Blackburn, Reading. They're not easy teams. Notts County, they got beaten by Man City, but 3-2 Chelsea overcame Man City. They beat Tottenham 3-0, and they'd overcome Blackburn 4-1. So they'd done pretty well. They'd beaten some big teams. Probably had a tougher run to the final than me. But on the day in the final, my boys performed, and we got what we needed done. The big surprise for me there is Liverpool losing to QPR. Also, Man City only beating QPR 1-0. This wasn't a very good QPR team, so very tight games, and Chelsea overcame them in a tight game. So I think that's the Capital One Cup story for that season. Tight wins on the other side of the draw. I won by 6, by 2, by 2, and by 3. So all in all, it could have been a lot worse. So let's have a look at the FA Cup. And as you can see, this was to be our year. We got our hands on the 5th trophy, and it was our first FA Cup as a club. My first FA Cup on FM13. So after putting in the work for 8 years and finally getting this trophy, it really was a bigger achievement than most of the other trophies we'd won. And again, it was fairly easy, but it wasn't as straightforward as it could have been. We opened up with a win over Reading, 4-0 at home. Kind of expect that. It's in that January period the cup starts up for us. So again, it's amongst the later stages of the Capital One Cup. It follows from the Club World Cup. It's a key point in the Premier League. You've got some European games around there. You've got the transfer window on top of it. So there's a lot to get done, but we got it right this time. So nice to get that win out of the way, build up some confidence. Away games against Wickham, which is a 5-0. QPR's 4-0. But back-to-back away wins in the cup is big for us, because that would have been where we would have blown up in previous years and just not been able to get the job done. Man United away from home, our third away tie in a row in that competition. I was sure that would be the one that got us, but we had done them in the Community Shield. We'd done them in the Super Cup, so I'm pleased to say that we completed that hat-trick in the cup competitions. We overcame them in the FA Cup 6th round, 2-1 at Old Trafford. Big result, big game, and at that point I knew that it was ours to lose. If we could get past 3 away teams on the bounce, finishing with United, then it was ours to lose. Then we picked up Stoke in the semi-final. I felt that was the best team that we could have really met for us, the way we played. So 4-1 winners there. And then Chelsea in the final. We'd already beaten them in that Capital One Cup final. So the chance to do the same again was too big to pass up. And it was fairly comfortable in the end. I believe they were picking up injuries and bookings, a few too many, over the previous couple of months. We kept our squad fit and, away from discipline problems. So a 3-0 win, really good performance. So here you can see our run. Again, not the toughest half of the draw for us. I think the other side was, again, though, quite similar to ours. A couple of lower league teams and, not too many big boys in the mix. But Chelsea 2-1 over Norwich, 3-2 over Bolton. So very tight wins again there. 2-0 over Wolves. That was comfortable enough. But I think we'd proven that we were the better team, and we got the job done. Hands on the cup, first FA Cup, so really delighted with that performance. And then onto the league. As you can see, we started off really well. Big wins very early on in the season. Some good solid away wins as well. So Everton, QPR, Stoke, Newcastle and Reading. So that's not a bad run, but it's not an easy run either. A draw 1-1 away to Nottingham Forest, that was kind of disappointing, but to be the only drop points when you're coming up against United, Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea in the next 5, it was a big away win at Burnley as well in the mix there. And we're not conceding more than 1 goal a game. The only game we did actually only score 1 in is the 1-1 draw with Forest. So we're scoring lots of goals, we're not conceding many, we're doing really well. From there we moved on to West Brom, Southampton. Huge win there at home to Southampton. Watford, and then Villa, Wolves, Blackburn away. We're starting to lose a little bit of steam here on Boxing Day. Big away wins, but then the goals sort of dry up a little. We're fighting in the next game against Arsenal. 3-2 winners. Luckily QPR were in all kinds of trouble, so away there, huge win. And I was allowed to play my reserves in that game. We really sort of set the morale levels back on their feet, give people a little bit more of a rest. We've got all these competitions coming sort of to the key points at this stage. And then, I sort of picked a couple of reserve players, but mainly it was the first team for the next 4 or 5 games. So we got big wins against Man City and Villa at home. Not too unexpected, the Villa one, but the Man City one was. But really good performances, so 2 7-0 wins. Beat Newcastle away 3-0, Stoke at home 5-0, and the Forest game, we drew 1-1 with them earlier on in the season. We totally destroyed them when we brought them back to our place. A huge 11-0 win here. As you can see, we follow up with 4-0 at Reading, 4-1 at home to Everton, completing the double over United with a win there. That's 5 times I beat United in this one season, which is unthinkable a couple of years ago. But we were at that stage now where we were able just to sort of keep ourselves above them. Then we got decent wins against Burnley and Liverpool at home, Tottenham and Chelsea away from home. There's West Brom, Watford, Southampton, Wolves. My reserves are playing these games and they're slowly being found out. So I think I was a little bit cheeky and played my under-19s away to Man City, just trying to see where their level was, if there were any youngsters waiting to be promoted, and I did find 1 or 2, but we blew a 100% record, 2-0 at Man City. I think it was a little bit harsh as well. We should have got something out of that game, but at the end of the day, they took their chances, we didn't take ours, and unfortunately, it was our only loss in the league that season. But, I put the same team out against Blackburn and 6-1 winners. I don't know whether the home factor came into play, or perhaps it's just because Man City are a lot better than Blackburn. But whatever the case may be, they really proved themselves in that game. So I give them a third game. I decided to end the season with the youngsters. And 1-0 away to Arsenal. Sorry, 1-1 away to Arsenal. So a win, a loss, and a draw. 4 goals conceded, 7 goals scored. Not a really bad, record for what was really 15 and 16-year-olds. So really quite pleased with that, to be honest with you. So then we look at the league table for this season. And you can see Forest, QPR and Burnley going down. That's no big shock. Like I say, it was a poor QPR team. The Forest team were always battling to try and get something out of this season. Very unlikely. And on the last day, Burnley just couldn't get it done. Liverpool staying up with the skin of their teeth. They've fallen far. Tottenham, you can see, right down there as well in 15th. Newcastle in 12th. But, it's better fortunes for Villa. They're climbing up the table. They're in 9th. Wolves are 7th. So, there are a few sort of bottom half Premier League teams moving their way up. And people have got to make way for that. The top 6, fairly standard over the course of this save. You've got Everton, Man City a couple of places below where you'd expect, Chelsea, Arsenal, of course Man United the closest to us. But this season, despite not having the squad that I wanted, we'd won everything by the time the Premier League had finished. And if I had played my first team, we probably would have gone unbeaten in the league, maybe even 37-1-0, only that one draw away to Nottingham Forest. But I had to test the youngsters. 145 goals scored, that's almost double everybody else's. 16 goals conceded all season, which pretty much is half or less than half than our nearest rival. So we won the table by 33 points, which is more than Forest and QPR actually got. So I can't be mad about that at all. And then we're on to the Champions League. As you can see, a perfect group for us. Huge win at home against Milan. That really set the tone for us. 4-0 there. Metalist away 3-2. You know, they've got a good team. I did play my reserves, which was a mistake. Nearly cost us. Luckily it didn't. Benfica away 7-0. You know, I should have played my reserves for that game. The first team got a run out. My reserves actually got the home leg. You know, 7-1 winners. Just phenomenal. And I knew at this point that we'd be a real force. You know, we're semi-finalists or finalists at worst after these opening few fixtures. You know, it really did give me the confidence to know that we would be up there. So AC Milan away, you know, 3-0, huge win. So that's, you know, both group games against Milan. It's 7-0 on aggregate. We haven't conceded a goal against them. I was absolutely delighted. And then to clean sweep the group with my reserves once again. Metalist at home, 2-0, job done. Really, really impressed. Now, we drew Inter Milan and I was really worried at that point. However, Inter are a team on the decline, massively so at this point. You know, they had sort of rebuilt, but they sold a lot of their youngsters. They had one good striker that I sold them a few years back because he wasn't getting in my team. They offered a lot of money, so yeah, I had to sell him. A good Mexican boy. So I was a little worried about him coming back to haunt me, but 4-0 away from home. Played my reserves in the second leg, so I figured, you know, if we did concede 1 or 2, I'd bring on my star defender and goalkeeper off the bench, and my midfielder as well. We just tighten things up. We'd sit back and we'd close the game out anyway. So 4-0 at home with my reserves. Really delighted. Drew Schalke, which is probably the easiest team in the quarterfinals. No disrespect to them. So 3-0 in Schalke again. I'm thinking, you know, we've got enough of a lead there. I'll play my reserves at home, and again I can make the substitutions to close out the game if that second leg goes against us. 4-0 at home, and yeah, this is where I made a little bit of a bad judgment call, because things have been so easy up to that point. I was concentrating a little bit on the FA Cup. I played my reserves away to Barcelona, and we got done. 4-2 loss to Barcelona, you know, at the Camp Nou. It's not a bad result. The thing I've got to give my youngsters and my reserves a lot of credit for here, they got the 2 away goals. And I knew then, okay, we needed to score 2 goals to go through. But I knew if we kept a clean sheet against Barcelona and we got a goal in the first half, I'd be comfortable. So, you know, that's basically how I set up. We took the lead at home after about 13, 14 minutes, I think, from a corner. Then we hit them on the break just before half time to get the goal we needed. And then I believe they actually came forward a little bit more. They had been playing on the counter-attack, but they came at us. We hit them back on the counter late on in the game. Louis Amadeo, I believe it was, chasing down the long ball. And, you know, a great result. 5-3 on aggregate, 3-0 at home on the day. So that set us up for the final. Paris Saint-Germain. They spent a lot of money to get there, but it was not to be their year, as you can see. So that was a big win. Let's have a look at the groups, not the groups, the tree, and just see who else was in the mix. As you can see, some big results going in here now. Lots of goals flying about. Our run, 8-0 over Inter, 7-0 over Schalke, tight 5-4 over Barca, and only managing to beat Paris Saint-Germain on penalties. So two really easy sets of games, and then a really difficult semi-final and final. But you can see PSG, they beat Slask 5-3. Credit to the Polish side there for putting up a pretty impressive fight. Man United 4-1, big win for PSG. And as we've already said, United are a huge club, so that shows the level that PSG were on. Madrid had overcome Marseille and Bayern Munich, but they lost to Paris Saint-Germain as well, so they really did earn their spot, and they ran us ever so close. But we did finally finish out with a complete season: Community Shield, Super Cup, World Cup, Capital One Cup, FA Cup, Premier League and Champions League titles. We had the Magnificent Seven, and it had only taken us 8 years to finally get it all. So, phenomenal performance, and I was really delighted that despite having quite possibly one of the worst squads we had since season 2 or 3, we'd actually managed to overstep our previous achievements. So let's have a look now a little bit at the transfers, or the key transfers, and see what's happened. Now, as you can see, we spent a bit more money, a few more deals this time. There's a couple of youngsters in here, but I think the main ones are, when I realise I've let too many people go on loan. So we got a young goalkeeper in, Thomas Verbeek, 4 million from Ajax. Really good prospect. He's still my number 2 now, 4 years on. So he's almost ready to become number 1. Andre Hales was a decent striker, I believe. We've got rid of him. And then come the 3 when I realised I had no cover in defence. So 32-year-old Bakary Kone for 2.3 million. And then loan deals for Diego Polenta and Sean Morrison from Reading. 50 grand every month, just to make sure that we didn't sort of really struggle in many competitions. They got their game time along the way. While I was at it, central midfielder Giovanni Apicella from AC Milan. Excuse me. He came in on loan, did a decent job, didn't play too many games. Then the youngsters, Subasiso Matombo from Cape Town Ajax, £1 million for a pretty strong centre-back from South Africa. Sean Dickinson from Leeds was a very accomplished striker. Not a great goal scorer, but definitely one for the future. And then Eladio from Barcelona for 7.5 was a very good Spanish striker. And 11.5 million out to Reading for Espen Olsen, a Norwegian attacking midfielder that I thought could be a key member of our side for the foreseeable future. So we spent about £30.5 million there. So that was okay. Now we're just going to have a look at the cash clause transfers for the actual transfers out, because there's a lot of loan deals, too many. We sort of lost a lot of central defenders especially, which is why we had to go a little bit crazy and get in as many as we did. So Jean Ove Bremnes, a really good Norwegian striker, out to Villa for 5 million. Martin, a midfielder, back out to Spanish homelands. He went to Valencia, 7.5. Julio Perez, again, another attacking midfielder striker. He left for Schalke. Gamble and Giddings, they didn't produce the sort of numbers I was hoping for in the reserves, so we got rid of them quite young. Rochdale were actually coming up into the Premiership, or in the Premiership, I believe. So that was a decent sell and decent purchase for them. Sibisi, my South African striker, out to Liverpool. Patrick Pears was a goalkeeper who came through my academy. He's out to Reading for 4. Delgado and Mendes out to Everton. 2 really good midfielders there. Manus to St Johnson. Sebastian Berger to West Brom. He actually will move to Man City in a year or two's time and score a ton of goals for them. But at this point, wasn't good enough for me, so I made my money on him where I could. Brad Piquet to QPR, short amount of money. Swan Martinez to West Ham. West Ham were rebuilding at this point, so they did some decent deals. Blackburn got Robbie Roger, another young striker. Stephen Kay was a great right back, he goes out to Stoke. And then the big deals, 40 million for Gareth Bale, 20 million for Freddie Garvin. And as I say, last season we already made the moves to replace them, so 120 million out, 30 million on players coming in, so we're making big profit again. And probably sold one or two that I shouldn't have, kind of weakened the cover we had, but we dealt with it very well nonetheless. So there we are, guys, a bit of a long episode, but a lot to get through. And we finally won the FA Cup. As I say, we got all 7 trophies. The first season we managed to do either of those. And with just 4 seasons left to being up to date, you can see the extraordinary progress we're making as a club. And really, I couldn't have planned this save any better. We've done fantastically well. So what remains to be done? We'll see again very soon when you come back and watch seasons 9 to 12 of the Swansea City Adventures. My name's Chris Ormie, and as always, guys, take care.